Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to finally be able to have this conversation. We've been planning it for a while. I'm going to do some boring intros in the beginning just so that we can jump into it. I'm Rafat. I'm the director of the Khan, which is a partner in OpenScape. OpenScape is a transcultural platform for curatorial exchanges that started around a couple of years ago. It joins partners from different parts of the world to discuss or to be together, and started for us to be together when we could not, when the pandemic was still very hardcore. This is the fourth series of conversations that or public events that we have with OpenScape. This is titled Prototyping Cultural Practices, and it's the second conversation that we have as part of the series in February. The point of the series is to bring in professionals in the culture sector and artists and institutions to discuss with each other, not their work, but how their work is having a relationship with the outside world in a sense. What are we pushing? What are we changing? What needs to be changed? What are the constraints? And today I'm very happy that we have Leah Rodriguez and Ziad Siblani, which also some of you may know as Kawkab Zahal, to be in conversation. Leah is a dancer and a choreographer, but also the founder of Leah Rodriguez Dance Company and the Free Dance School in Maré. And Ziad is an activist, filmmaker, and also a drag performer that has a lot of work on community safety, but also translations and developments of the community in the Arab world. Thank you both for being here. I'm going to be moderating this conversation, but I want to focus on you. So if you want to just forget I exist, it would be also great. I think we've had a lot of conversation throughout a couple of weeks. So I'm just going to jump in and maybe start with you, Ziad, on like if there's one pressing topic intuitively without thinking a lot that you are thinking of in your practice right now. What would it be? Like what is the main kind of question?
Question or like topic?
Whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah.
Basically, when you were like asking me, your video glitched, so which reminded me of something that I always feel like talking about and or like discussing, which is hardships in general. So and intuitively speaking, because I come from Lebanon, and to be an activist there for the LGBTQ plus community and a drag performer and so this is what I excel in and what I always would like to talk about or like discuss, and what always comes into my mind is hardships and the challenges and like how to get over those things. You see the sun like just lit me, so it's like the universe is aligned with me now. So
that's a high five from the sun.
Yeah.
Leah, I think part of that question came from when we were discussing a bit earlier, and you were talking about your current focus on pedagogy and pedagogic development these days. I would like you to maybe speak a little bit about what you call mutant pedagogy that happens at the Free School and how that transforms and competes with like the typical dominant forms of schooling.
Yeah. First, I think it's very important for me always to put myself, what I am in my context, because this is very important. This changes everything. I'm a white woman, middle class, living in a huge country like Brazil, that is extremely racist, that suffered with the colonization, and still the racism it plays a lot also in contemporary art. So I had the privilege to be able to be an artist. This is not for everybody in my country till now, where we are speaking now. So this for me brings a lot of responsibility. What can I do being an artist, a white woman in this country? How can I share the possibilities that I had only because I'm born like this? I am cisgender also. So this means a lot. So all my professional life was directed in this direction. How can I share? How can I put in practice, in action, my responsibility, my privilege? So this leads me to go to work in this favela. Favela is this enormous, how do you call this in English again, favela? Is the poor areas.
It's the same word, yeah.
140,000 people lives there. So in this favela, you have a world inside. So it's why I decided to go there together with a civil social organization that is very important also to be together, that works in different areas, not only art, education, about gender, territory, security, ecology, everything is together there. It's impossible to separate. And I'm partner of this organization with art. And everything I do, pedagogy, anything, is crossed by this situation that I am. So I all the time dealing with this complex relation, this paradoxical relation. It's why you asked me the question, pedagogy, mutant pedagogy, or a dance school. I cannot just speak about this without putting context around, because this changes everything. And so together with this organization, we create first a space for the school, but it's an art center in 2009, and 2011, a dance school. The dance school, 300 students for all ages, and a specific group of 23 young students from 16 to 23 that get the bourse, and is not to be a dancer or to be an artist. This is not part of our education. It's to be a citizen able to act in the context. So they have classes of gender, of how to deal with the police. Everything is inside this dance formation. So is together, art together with social issues. So this is the school.
And I think this, like when you were speaking about this and talking about this transformation and kind of this need to shape, it's like shape and reshape to fit and change the context. I think, Ziad, maybe it would be also interesting to speak a little bit about the context in which you also need to transform and shape in order for you to function in a place like Lebanon. But also, I'm curious about, what's it called? Like when you decided to start Zuhal, for example, it almost mutated into a pedagogical project. Like there is a lot of, like if we were in a different sector, we would call it awareness, right? But there is a lot of,
like when
can you speak a little bit more about that?
New, and you just realize that there's a lot of things that are missing, because I'm doing this in a country that isn't really familiar with the drag art, even though we had a lot of drag artists before, but it was never shaped under this category, and we never knew. So I had to come up with so many things in order for people to like understand what I'm doing, and to use my culture into my art, because in like we don't have a lot of terms in Arabic that we have in English for like our community. So I had to translate, for example, the word drag into Arabic. So, and there's a lot of things that came up after. But what I did is I decided to just start and hope for the best. And then with time, I started realizing that there's a lot of things that need to start from here, and we cannot adopt everything from the Western drag. But at the same time, we can just use the skills or like get inspired by those queens that we already know on TV or whatever it is. So, and definitely being a drag queen in Lebanon. Oh, yeah.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I want you to build a little bit on something that has to do with language. When we were also preparing for this, it was kind of a funny moment where we all acknowledged that we're speaking in English, right? And the fact that it's always going to create this kind of a misunderstanding all the time, because this is not necessarily our language. So could you build a little bit more on why it's important to build the terminologies that are local? Like, why do you think it's important? I mean, we could think it's obvious, but to you, like, what's the...
Because it's I mean, art is very, like, for me, art is a common language, but at the same time, if I want to be known as an Arabic drag queen, I need to come up with things. For me, I really higher my standards when it comes to what I can do. I never say like I'm gonna wait for someone to like invent that term. No, the term is not there, so I can make it up and I can put it out there. So that's why for me it's very important. It was important for me to have an Arabic lexique or like champ lexical for us to use as queer people, because our language is rich, but there was no one maybe to invest in that area of it. So that, I don't know if I answered what you were asking, but not for me. Language was very important, and when I first started, one of the main things that really made me popular in my area was that I lip sync to Arabic songs, and for me it was very like I didn't have a lot of thoughts to do that. It was very natural of me. Like, I'm gonna put this song and I'm gonna lip sync it. But after like a while, I realized that people really were very into this, and that made me known because of the lack of Arabic music in the drag art form and like internationally. So I realized that this is something I can build on, and I decided to build my identity upon the Arabic culture. So my name was Lydia before, so I changed my name into an Arabic name, and I built all my identity into my Arabic like culture, so I can really promote myself as an Arabic performer who does drag and who is like coming up with things that weren't there before, or maybe if they were, there was no one that is putting it out there.
Claiming
so
it,
now my English is glitching. This is the Arabic inside of me. Anyway, so this is what I did, and I used my Arabic identity in order to become an activist for that. And there's something very nice and very also very challenging about being a drag queen in the Arab culture, is that you automatically become an activist because you're already like pushing boundaries. So there's no way that you're not like, you have to be like, you are an activist. It's not like you have a choice. You are.
Yeah, it's not either or. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very challenging, but I'm glad that I maybe was able to push some boundaries in our culture. So yeah.
In a way, I feel like this is also reminding me of maybe our first conversation that we had together, Leah. You said something that is very, I don't know, I found it very inspiring, and it's about the other. Like when we're talking about language and kind of bringing in the margin to the center, for example, in Ziad's case, but also in your case, working as a white woman in the favelas, you come in as another, right? And what you told me at the time is that, yes, maybe it's the European thing to bring everyone to be kind of the same, but in reality, being an other is also something to work with, right? It's part of the equation. And I feel like when you said that, it was interesting to claim that as part of a tool or a power, rather than kind of tone things down so they look the same. I'm curious about how you position yourself as another, or how the school is perceived in the neighborhood, especially after it's grown, because it's been growing for quite some time and it's been changing for quite some time. So is there something to say about that?
I am the other in different places and in different ways. For example, in my own country, I'm the other because I'm white, and I am the other in the favela because I'm not part of their culture. I don't live there, for example.
Mm.
So when I'm in Brazil, I have some kind, I am in the superior level because I'm
Mm.
white. When I
Mm.
go my work to Europe to present, I'm down because I'm South America woman. It means I'm not part of the high culture. Contemporary work that I do is not, this pattern that Eurocentric artists or producers are consider as art, contemporary art. They always look at me and my work as I'm from Brazil, so they expect something because I'm from there. So I'm always changing these places. It's very interesting for me when I realized this, because in the beginning, I didn't realize this place in Europe. I always felt very bad. I always felt that I was less because I didn't speak too well English, or, they have this conceptual, because all the philosophers, writers are white men. So they build this culture around art as white men is very strong from Europe. So they act like this if they don't want. It's a very patriarchal society. So for a white woman, of course I'm white, but when I come to Europe, I'm not white anymore. I'm in another category. So in the beginning, a long time ago, I was feeling very not appropriate. I don't know how to say the right words, but I always felt that maybe I don't fit. But later, because I believe that we have to, how do you say this in English? Alphabetize, learn the ABC. How
Yeah.
do you say this in English? I had to do this first in Brazil, of course, to understand the unequal country that I lived a long time ago. But then in Europe also, I had to read other authors that taught me how to see this Eurocentric culture and the very bad things they did around, and they are still doing. So I'm using to be the other in different places. But I believe that when you make alliances, you can say this, we can work together with our differences. And I believe this very strong is what I try, not to homogene everybody, but to deal with this wonderful differences way to be in life, to see the world, not with the center. I'm not the center. I always move, but as I work a lot in Europe, and I can see the difficulty they have to be out of the center because they never been. They even don't know about their privilege. They are not, many people are not able to step out and to not be in the center. This is a hard work. You have to break this first inside to be able to break around you. And this I don't see too much.
There's something
Yeah.
that Leah told me, before this meeting, that she has a relative who is she is her grandfather is Lebanese, so she has a Lebanese family. Not to mention the family because it doesn't matter, but what she told me is that when she used to apply for like jobs or whatever, she sent her CV to any European or like the UK. She used to feel rejected because there was a lot of racism towards like the Arabic, I guess. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but like we had this conversation. So what I think is belonging to the LGBTQ plus all the letters community is something that at some point it saved me. It has an advantage that saved me from a lot of these situations because as an artist and as someone who doesn't belong to the capitalist world and to applying jobs and CVs and whatever. So for me, it's interesting that in my community that we don't really like actually they they romanticize the fact that I might be Arab at some point, but which is very funny that how people decide to put a filter on you regardless of who you are. What she was saying is that in Europe they don't look at her as the white person, but in Brazil she is white. So I feel like it's really funny how people like decide to treat you in a certain way, as if there's like an Instagram filter on you that changes in each country and depending on the community you belong to. But really, like when you decide to really go ahead and like just not care about anything and be who you are, this is where your own filter shines through. So yeah, thank you, Leah, actually, for saying like whatever you said, because it was really like on point.
I think Ziad, you know that I'm going to push you on this. Like, I want you to speak a little bit more, because I think that part of the things that you do are the opposite of not caring. I mean, you care a lot about this. So I wanted to see how your work kind of has a conversation with the European gaze. So when someone looks at you as an exotic kind of Arab LGBTQ person, and then you are creating something that is actually geared towards your own culture, which requires you to create Arabic LGBTQ content, for example, but is also accessible to everyone if they want. How do you balance? Like, how do you balance not changing for this economy that wants you to be this one person, you know?
I just there's something very common in every interview or like conversation or anything I had with any let's say European media, or with all my respect, but that they always I'm always put into the victim like role, and like I struggled, I had to, like, I was kicked out, I was violated, I was whatever it is. So there's always this narrative. So what I always do is okay, I'm an Arab, but no, I actually I'm not I refuse to fall under the victim role, because I feel like I'm a champion and I did a lot, and no, I can actually go out in drag, and I can actually do this and do that, and I'm not waiting for anyone to save me. I'm just here to inspire people and to tell them that they can do that, because if I always keep on playing the victim role, it's not for me, it's not really inspiring. It's just like it makes people cry, and I don't want to do that. So so that's what I do in my daily life. How I function as in these countries as an Arab person is that it depends on what I'm looking for and how personal I take things. Yes, I do care at some point in my career, but when I deal with people on daily basis, I don't take things that personally. It depends. If I'm going out like on a one hookup night with someone who likes Arabs, I would go for it, because I'm like, it's not gonna affect my life. But in my in my career and the things that I stand for, it's different, because these are the things that I'm actually building for the long term. So
and
yeah,
this is taking me somewhere also this is a question for both of you, actually, and it's like this magic word of impact. Like, everyone is seeking impact in a way, like the impact of your work, the impact of this, the impact of that. And also in our conversation, Leah, you had mentioned, like, what do you expect of this conversation? Like, what is it going to lead to? What I'm curious about is how much of this is in your mind while doing the work. So, for example, with Yulia, whether it's through your artwork as a dancer, choreographer, or through the institution, quote unquote, because I know that you don't like this word for the school, how much is impact a big part of the planning? Like, is it part of your life that happens, or is it like a KPI where like something needs to happen every year for you to keep the funding going and stuff like that?
It's very difficult to separate my life from my work, because it's impossible. It's more and more, because maybe I'm getting really old now. This is impossible, because it's about being a citizen of the world, let's say. So when I do my work, I'm not able to separate my work as an artist from my work as a citizen in this place where I work. It's completely like this, you know. also everything that I think about environment or life of others. Now you can imagine in Brazil now, we had 4 horrible years. I was saying before, because Brazil is the country that kills more LGBTQIA plus persons per year. So this is something that we have to take an account when we are creating or making a school. What you say to the students of the school. We have now a trans woman and a trans man among our students. So you have to be responsible. You have to think about this. And this is part of my work, my life. And my work as an artist, my work in this dance school, in this art center, everything is like this. For example, now I'm touring with my piece in Brazil, and I don't know, maybe we don't know because we have so much horrible things in the world going on, but one is the indigenous people in Brazil that are being are killing by the golden people that go there in their land and they spoil everything. So you have a genocide there. So before the performance, I read a text. I'm very practical and very concrete. I don't care about this art thing that you don't say anything before the performance. I don't see art like this. I go there, I read my text, I give a place to give money to these people because I made an account. If I do this each time that I play my piece, if I have 500 people, if 100 give 10 euros, I don't know how much that you enter in this account and you save lives. So, I try to make my work because it's impossible for me to not do. It's too big. It's much more big than me as an artist. I don't care too much about this. I care about what we are doing in this world right now. Because I'm very good here, but people there that are holding our skies. Without the indigenous people, there is no air for you, anywhere, any place that you are, there's no air to breathe. So this is very important. They are holding our sky, and you don't even think about. Yeah, you prefer think about I don't take airplane to make the environment better. This is bullshit. Sorry if I say something bad word. No, it's much more
perfect.
In which way you are connected to the others. If you need to take an airplane to work, I don't know where, because you need this money to survive, is okay. This is not going to spoil the world. The world is already spoiled a long time ago. So I don't know if I answer your question, but
I think it's very interesting. It's interesting to hear you speak about this, like being an artist and being a person as one, and then you are kind of a vehicle that moves with it everywhere, and it changes and it learns. I mean, it's very much also, I mean, now I'm like obsessed with this idea of moderating, so I'm just connecting the ideas all the time, but also I'm thinking about the amount of labor that goes into community building. And I mean, Ziad, in your practice, this is a very big part. And most of the people that I work with, like thinking about who we belong to and how we are pitching that back into it, beyond this notion of like trademark impact, is very important. I'm curious, because Ziad, also what's interesting in your practice is that you've been working recently on digital safety and anti-bullying and kind of like providing a safe space for the community, even though maybe it's not safe for you, and this kind of totally. So also, like, I don't want to go into the victim kind of route, but I'm curious about how you pitch into, or how you receive, or what you've learned from being in a like within a gender identity that does not allow you to be outside of a community that is very close, right? Like when we think of cisgender people, we don't think of cis communities, right? But when we think of LGBTQ or artists, we think of these communities. And I'm curious about how you operate within that, the need to belong to a bigger organ.
Okay. Basically, when I started my whole thing, I didn't have a long-term plan, except that I'm gonna follow my intuition and be yourself, and you're on the right track, Lady Gaga, whatever it is. And then with time, on my way there, I realized that I'm funny and that I do comedy and that I can make social media accounts. And then I got on TikTok, and then this is where viral bullying hit me. Before that, I never faced that amount of bullying before, even though I was always myself and out. But it was like very like in very small like situations and narratives. But when I hit social media and I became viral, and this is that it was hard. It was when I realized that I don't belong, and I really felt the thing that people always talk about is being rejected, because I've been in my comfort zone for a very long time, and I surround myself with people who are like me or who think like me or who accept me. So, and that was actually, I made the best out of what happened to me because I kept fighting, and I learned how to feel like I belong outside my circle, and wherever I go, I have to be treated the same way everyone treats everyone, because I am everyone, and like I'm not different, and there's nothing wrong or different about me. So it took a lot of hard work, and at some point I wasn't like I was already mentally struggling and like with my mental health and whatever it is. So for me to put that work as well was a lot, but I did it, and for me it was all about being confident and being inspired by those small situations that you witness on your in your like daily life. And uh, I mean confidence and like being there, and like it's something that you like you put like I don't know how you force it. Like it's not that 50% of it is from you, and the other part is from people. So I do feel like if you live and you function on the daily basis, like as if nothing is wrong and you're just acting like who you are, uh, people will be drawn to that, and they will like not really notice other things or like put their like point things out. But if you treat people in a way that you're hiding something or you're scared or like you have fear, people will feel that, and they will smell that, even though it's totally wrong and they're shitty for doing that. But maybe I had the privilege to practice and to experiment in those things, so I can maybe talk about it now. So I really worked so hard on myself, and there's a lot of time where I wasn't really comfortable inside, but I act like I'm like everything is fine, and it works, and it helped me a lot with my now all my circle is out. Like I have a lot of friends who are outside my usual circle, or like the LGBTQ plus community or whatever it is. And actually there's a lot of magic happening, because collaborating with those people is sometimes beneficial, because sadly this is the if you want like the majority, or like this is the normal, or like the community that is stronger or like outside our circle. So to get to know that a lot of those people are like very friendly, and they are willing to support and like be there even though we don't need them, but if we can use the help, it's totally fine, and it's totally magical, because yeah, this is where the magic happens. And I feel like I belong to the earth, not to a specific. Even though like I'm rooting for my people, but I can't always feel like I can't go outside my circle, because
This goes back. This goes back a little bit to what Leo was mentioning about alliances, right? Like I think alliances are very important to expand the story and to expand the visible mainstream or the possible. I need like 5 minutes. Thanks. I'm sorry, but I'm being called out of the room. So, but I'm gonna be professional and wrap it up with like, I have a question that maybe Ziad, it made you a little bit sad, but I want to ask it anyways, and I want to change the sadness. I want to kind of end this with this notion of mythology, because in both of your work, I feel like, but also in the lens by which I look at artists' work that I feel inspires me, it has to do with changing the dominant mythology. It changes the mainstream story, and it changes how what we perceive could be real, because a lot of the time the Eurocentric defines what can happen and what cannot happen and whose story. And Ziad, one thing that may be a little bit too specific of a question is your work on horoscopes, right? Like one of the things that I mentioned in the map that I sent you was hacking mythology. And this idea that I found very optimistic made you a little bit sad. So I just want to have both of your takes on how you...
I just misunderstood the term, that like I took it into another place.
But that's the thing. I found that interesting, because the thing is, like, when you sent me that broken heart emoji, I'm like, what did I do? So actually, I want you both to speak a little bit, if you want, about how your work changes dominant mythologies and the tools that you use for that. I mean, both pedagogic, like artistic displays, or changing what is expected of an artist, let's say in Leah's case, but also in your case, Ziad, how you really transform narratives that people believe, even though they're like horoscopes. I mean, people would rather believe horoscopes than LGBTQ rights. And I find that really kind of an interesting challenge to the mainstream. So like, after you both are done, we could wrap it up, but I would like to hear about that a little bit.
Yeah. I can, if you want, I can start. With the horoscopes. Now I'm gonna answer your question, like how it is, not how what I understood and sent you a broken heart emoji. But when like with horoscopes, it was very interesting because I was doing that for Vice Arabia, that is based in Dubai, in the Gulf, and like out there, it's not like they don't even discuss drag, like gay or anything related to that is a big, huge no. Yeah, it's like a crime. So like to be able to like film horoscopes for like 2 years in a row, and like I filmed them here in Lebanon, but it's like based there, and monthly, like on monthly basis, and even horoscopes in Islam is like they say in the Quran, كذب المنجمون ولو صدقوا, which means even if you're right, you're a liar. So like for me it was very funny because I'm already doing this in drag and I'm doing horoscopes, and there's a lot of sexual, like every prediction has a sexual joke or like sarcasm, but like very low key, and I included sex a lot in the predictions, and they were funny. They weren't really serious or like no, they were based on real predictions, but I make them up in a funny way. So the thing what really made me last that long is that I really I don't know how to say it in English, but like when there's something that is challenging, okay, let's fuck it up. Let's like do everything that is challenging to a point where people are not gonna be able to process the amount of fuckery they are saying. So there's a lot of things that are going wrong. I mean, if someone is suffering that lives there, or like who is very against all of this, like he's not gonna know what to like be against, like me in drag, the horoscopes, the sexual jokes, like so. And but what I like about that is the shock value in it. And in the first few months, I had a lot of people really commenting very harsh negative comments, and I told Vice not to remove them because for me this is archive, and this is literally what I wanted, is like this shock value. But later on, when they see another person who is holding a guy's hand, like a gay person who is holding his boyfriend's hand, it's gonna be way less dramatic than how it was before seeing me. So that was my way. I used shock value a lot and like doing everything. And the horoscopes, I mean, everyone wants to know, regardless if they are with or against, everyone wants to know what their sign prediction is. And this is something that I know, like, it's actually a conversation opener when I'm in a very uncomfortable situation. I ask people what their sign is. I mean, if the police came one time to my show. This is one of my plans. I'm gonna ask the police guy, "What's your sign?" and I'm gonna change the topic. So I use that in order to like make people more into what I do. So that's how I did it, and I stopped doing that with Vice because of like it's a personal thing, not because of like the government or anything. But I hope I answered your question.
You did, and sorry for moving. Meanwhile, now I have a little dog next to me. Anywho, Leah, how about you?
And I was completely lost because I was so interested in Ziad, what Ziad was saying, that I forgot the question.
Okay, I love that. I'm gonna repeat.
By the way, I'm Taurus.
Ah, you're a
Ziad,
Taurus? Oh my God.
do you want to tell us a little bit?
I used to not like Taurus, like, but now I love Taurus. They're the best in bed. I'm not sure we're gonna do anything together, but I know you're good in bed.
Just to make fun of this. But what was the question? I forgot.
Okay, so Ziad, do you want to formulate it now that you're like giving horoscopes, or do I do that?
No, I prefer if you do that, so I don't fuck up.
So my question was about how your work impacts dominant mythologies. Like, how do you, like, after Ziad's intervention, now I feel like we need to change the question, but I'm curious, so I'm gonna be very, like, I'm gonna push that. So how do you feel like your work pitches into dominant mythologies or dominant narratives of what is expected of art, actually, art and the place of art and pushing cultural practices in directions that they don't want to go?
To be very sincere, I don't think my work impact anything of this. And I don't think about this when I do my work because, you know, I just do what I think is necessary. I don't have an aim. And I don't believe that my work, I'm very pessimist, although I act as an optimist in my daily life. But I'm very pessimist. It's not going to be better. It's not going to change anything because we live under a system that dominates everything. The system dominates even horoscope. They took all the beauty of horoscope to sell things, etc. So you live in this world. But of course, I try to myself to be in touch with other ways to see the world, other cosmogony, or indigenous cosmogony, or Afro-American cosmogony that helps me to have another regard, another look at the world, because it's not possible that it's only this, you know. So I try to read different books. I try to be able to be in touch with other ways to see the world, like I said, ayahuasca, indigenous people, and all these wonderful tools to live in another way. But this is a continuous work. But in my personal, in my work, I don't know if I'm touch this or I have an aim. I don't have. I have to work as a Taurus, right? I'm very practical. I go and I do the things that I have to do, but I don't know if they are going to change, and I don't care at all. I just do what I need, more or less.
I think that's a beautiful final note, actually. Like, we don't care.
Yeah.
And you approve Zuhal. I think Zuhal is coming out now.
Yeah. No, I agree with her, but that's the sun is really not, the sun is a Taurus right now. Okay, so I agree with what she said, and I come from a also very pessimistic point of view, but I make the best out of it. I guess that's what it is. No, we just know that things are fucked, but because we know, we try to, like, for me, if I don't know why this way of thinking and who actually made me think like that, but for me, if I by the end of my life, if I feel like I really helped one person in any situation, like only one person, for me this is enough, and that's a great accomplishment. But even though God didn't put me in charge, but I feel like I need to do that, because I always think that maybe if I have something that others can be really helped through, I need to use it. Like, it's a responsibility. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And also what I feel around this question is there is so many ignorance around. People, they don't know anything about other ways to see the world. And this is, for me, you have to change first here. Of course, you have to have this, and I see this very beautifully in Ziad, when we were speaking about how do you feel to not be different. I don't know if I understood, but I understood in a very beautiful way what you said to me. And that you are what you are in any situation, and this you had to work on yourself to see yourself as I am like this, and this is normal. I mean, this is very strong already. This is already a fight without being a fight.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, is beautiful to see. And I see this around me. I don't see this in me, but I see around me. And this inspires me to do something. So this is what I want to say. I don't know how to say better.
Thank you both so much. I mean, this could go on forever because I'm really enjoying it. And also I had an extra hour free because we started at 10, not 11. Thank you so much, both. This is just a reminder that also this will be online on OpenScape's YouTube channel. And for everyone that actually logged in live, thanks for sharing the time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks so much.
I don't know how to do this.
Well, Ziad, one more thing you have to do.